Today is Saturday, May 21st, 2016. My name is Patty Bernard. I'm with the Nevada Women's History Project. We are interviewing Patsy Jean Davidson Holub, known as Patsy Jean all the way through high school, but after high school became known as Pat. This is part of the John Ben Snow Grant, which was awarded to the Nevada Women's History Project as interviewing Nevada women along Highway 50.
I was born in Fresno, California, and we moved when I was 2 years old to San Francisco, and I lived there until I was, in my 30s. And I went all through school in San Francisco. And I went to, I think that I lived in the Marina District right by the Palace of Fine Arts. And I went to grammar school and Marina Junior High when they opened it, which I thought was pretty good. And then I went to Bates High School, which was a private high school. And then World War II happened. And so I was rushed to the Tri-Delt sorority, and then I couldn't go to college because my daddy sold cars, and they didn't have any cars to sell because they weren't making cars. But my dad was a very, very fine automobile salesman. He used to sell fleets of cars. I have many pictures of him, and he was right on Van Ness Avenue is where all the automobile agencies were in San Francisco. And he worked for the Chrysler Plymouth, was the main one that he worked for.
And who were your parents' names? What were their names?
My mother was Nisby Howard, was her maiden name, Nisby Jean Howard. And her main thing was she worked, when she was in her 20s, she worked not a stock company, but they had light opera, and she was, I had that picture of her, and they had what they called stock companies that went all over the United States. And it was light opera, and she was a singer.
And your father's name?
Was Harry Davidson, and he was the car salesman. He was a salesman, and he could sell birdseed for cuckoo clocks, as he used to say. So, he was a fun man, and he was very successful in what he did. And I was lucky to be able to go to private schools and everything at that time.
Did you have any siblings?
I had one sister, Adele, and she lived in San Francisco all her life. She was born in San Francisco and lived there all her life. She was 10 years older than I was. So
it seems like you then came really from an artistic company.
Oh, yes. They were, it was just a bunch of fun, wonderful people, really. We had a great family.
And after high school graduation, what did you do during the war?
During the war, my first job, they had ration shoes, and I went to work at Summer and Kaufman. My first job was at Zinke's Shoe Repair, which was, they were repairing shoes because you couldn't buy new shoes. And so I went to work there. And then I went to work at Summer and Kaufman, where it was a 5-story building on Market Street in San Francisco, where they had it was a shoe store, huge shoe store. It's called Summer and Kaufman. And I sold ration shoes there. So that was during the war. And then I went to work for Roos Brothers, which was a clothing store in San Francisco. And I loved that. And I did well there. And then I got married because it was time.
How did you meet your husband?
He was, my sister's friend was my husband's. His mother was a friend of my sister's, because my sister was 10 years older than I was. So this was a friend of hers. They introduced me to their son, his name was Duke Tarpey, and his father was the head of the Bar Pilots Association in San Francisco. They're the ship that they take the ships in and out of San Francisco Bay, the Bar Pilots. It's a very important thing in San Francisco because no ship can come in without a bar pilot. And his father was the head of the Bar Pilot Association, so which was very interesting. And he was in the Navy Air Corps, and he flew blimps, because at that time they had blimps watching over because the Japanese submarines were coming into the bay. This was World War II, so it was pretty scary. Anyhow, that's what, and then I lived in San Francisco when they had blackouts. You couldn't even go out of the house because everything was blacked out. I mean, I lived through World War II, and it was a very interesting time.
Were you in high school when war was declared, or were you?
I was still in high school. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was World War II. This was in the, let's see, oh gosh. The 40s, was in the 40s. So,
1941?
Yeah, right. So I got married in 1941 to Duke Tarpey, who was, but he turned out to not be the best friend I ever had, but I was married to him 15 years, and he was in the Merchant Marine after he got out of the blimps after World War II. He went into the Merchant Marine, and he was an officer in the Merchant Marine. So he traveled a lot, and when he was home, he drank a lot. So that didn't last. That only lasted 15 years, but I did have 3 kids with him. And they all turned out fine. That's because I married Frank Holub, who raised my family.
And when did you marry Frank?
I married Frank in 1958, and he was perfect to me. He was the perfect husband, the perfect father, and he was perfect. And when he was in the war, he was too young then, but he went into submarines. So I had one in the air and one in submarines, but the submarine was much better. So, and he was 10 years younger than me.
And did you meet him in San Francisco?
No, I lived in Marin County. I had moved from San Francisco to Marin County. Marin County is beautiful. I lived in Sausalito, and then I lived in Mill Valley, and I met Frank because I knew his sisters. And my folks' house had burned down, and they came to live with me, and I lived in Corte Madera. My mother and dad lived with me, and Duke his name was Duke. He was gone all the time in the Merchant Marine, so my mother and dad moved in to my home because their house burned down. I mean, it's quite interesting, and I lived in the Marina, right in the Marina District in San Francisco. That's where I was raised.
Pat, I know that you moved to Nevada with your new husband in 1958. Did you move directly to Carson, or did you move somewhere before you moved to Carson?
I worked for Safeway, and when I moved to Nevada, I went to Reno to get a job in the meat at Safeway, and I belonged to the Butchers Union. So they had an opening in Carson City. So I moved to Carson City, and Frank came to Carson City, and he thought he was going to be a guard at the prison because he had worked at San Quentin. However, when he got here, you had to be 32 to be a guard, and he was 10 years younger than I was. So he was only 22 and I was 32. So I'm interesting. So I got a young one, and he raised my family, and we were married 54 years, and he did everything I wanted him to because he was the good husband. So
When did you become interested in arts? When you came to Carson, how did you enter into the art community?
I was working at Safeway, and then I retired, and I decided I wanted to do something special, and I thought art was a good thing too, so I started taking classes and joined the art group and the Nevada Artists Association. And I took workshops, and I started just taking classes. First I started with pottery, and then that wasn't, so then I went on to doing artwork. And I took classes from Dorothy Paulson and who else? What was her name that was in the wheelchair? Oh, Virginia Harsh.
Virginia Harsh.
She was an excellent artist, and I took classes from Thelma Calhoun, and I took all the classes I could, and then I went to workshops wherever there was a workshop, and I painted every Wednesday. Every Wednesday was my painting day, and I did that for many, many, many years. No matter where I was on Wednesday, I painted because that was the program. So, and then my husband, the good husband, did all my framing for me. So one day, years later, he said, "Do you know you've sold over 1,000 paintings?" And I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Because I've framed 1,000 paintings because I had a sign that said framed by Frank." So that's how I knew I'd sold over 1,000 paintings.
Was there a medium that you liked most?
Yes, watercolor was my favorite. That's what Dorothy Paulson was, watercolors. Virginia Harsh did oils, so I did take oil classes. And I took, from as many people that would come to this area, I would take a class and learn new ways to paint. So every Wednesday, and I painted out on location. I was not a studio painter, so they call it plein air. And that's the way I painted because, and I guess you knew Rhoda Shedd, who was a wonderful lady. We used to go and paint in the snow, and we had lots of fun. It's wonderful to be an artist because you can be crazy as you want to, and people say, "Oh, she's an artist." It worked for me.
And what kinds of subject matter did you find that you were most interested
Oh,
in?
I love to do old barns and old buildings. I went to Virginia City all the time to paint. It was very interesting. And then they used to have portrait classes at the Brewery Art Center, and I always went to the portrait workshops. And there are a lot of things you can do when you're an artist. You can keep busy all the time, and it makes it a fun way to be.
I know that you helped start the Brewery Arts Association. Were you a member of any other artists associations before then?
No, well, I belong to Nevada Artists Association, and the people from that are the ones that started the Brewery Art Center. And there were 12 of us that had our first meeting. There were 12 artists, and we met and decided we needed culture in Carson City. So we decided we should have an art center, and we had a building that we had bought on Washington Street, and they had the brewery was for sale, so we decided that if we sold that, we could get into buy the brewery. And so we got our gallery in the Brewery Art Center. That's how we got the gallery.
What did it take to raise the money to open this gallery? Was there unanimous appreciation for this?
Oh, well, there were a whole group of people that started the Brewery Art Center. I guess you know that. It took us 5 years to get the money to even open it. I mean, it was a disaster area. The Brewery Art, the whole place was just a mess, and we had to remodel the ballroom upstairs and all that, but we raised money by having different occasions and doing different stuff to raise money. And we did. There were 12 of us that started it. And we really worked day and night and day, and it happened. And it's still happening. So that's the best part.
Have you remodeled any of the original building?
Oh, the whole thing is remodeled. You couldn't walk into it. You couldn't walk in. It was, well, you couldn't get up the stairs to get up to the ballroom even.
What kinds of activities are in that building?
Oh, they have everything now, all kinds of different things. Well, it's been open, you know, for 40 years now, so we opened it in 1979 was the grand opening, and we started on the project in 1975. And there were 12 of us that were involved in that. And it was a big whoop. We put on lots of different things to raise money, and we did it. We did it. It was amazing.
Were you involved in the second building, the Old Catholic Church addition?
No, that had nothing to do with us to get started. That came later. But I did go to get church there, and I did get married there in 1958. With Father Winches was there. And I did do a painting of the church, of the old church, which I should have that to show. This is one of my paintings of St. Theresas Church in 1970. And that's where I was married in 1958. And now the original painting is hanging in the new church. It is hanging in the church, and I think that's an honor for me to have the original painting hanging in the St. Theresas Church. So I'm very proud of that. That's one of the 1,000 that I did. So.
Pat, you talked a little bit about your mother being in a stock company.
Yes, and that was light opera, and they used to go all over the United States on trains, and they used to go from Washington down through California. She was in the stock company, and she played at Piper's Opera House in Virginia City. They used to come down right through Virginia City.
Could you give us an approximate date of when she was in the stock company?
Oh, it had to be in the early 1900s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, her name was Nisby Jean Howard, and she was a redhead with green eyes, and she had the most gorgeous voice you ever heard.
Was she a soprano or
an
alto?
Yeah, soprano. She was quite a gal. She was very, very, and she was only 4'10". She was a little tiny gal, and she was very zippy. So, and had a beautiful voice.
You also have been in quite a few organizations in Carson City. Can you talk a little bit about the organizations and what these organizations have done for the community?
Well, the Brewery Art Center, which I'm proud of because they do so many wonderful things for the community. They have Well, they have the little theater, they have the gallery, they have programs all the time. And in fact, the newest thing they're going to have is on Saturday nights. They will have, I'm not sure if it's Saturday night or Friday night. I think it's Friday night. They're going to have a band there every Friday night, and it'll be open to the public, and it's free. And they have closed the street there, as you know, and that's where they'll have the bands. And I think it is every Friday night, and they start the first part of June. And it'll be a fun thing for the whole community to enjoy.
And you are in PEO?
I've been in PEO since the 70s, and my daughter, Terry, I'm very proud of her. She was the state president for PEO. She also went to Cotty College, which is the college that they sponsor in Nevada, Missouri. And they've just made it a 4-year college. It was a 2-year college when she went there, but she's very active with that, and was president of the state.
Pat, you've talked about PEO and being a proud member. What does PEO stand for?
Philanthropic Educational Organization. And it is a wonderful organization for young women. They have a college in Nevada, Missouri, Cotty College, and it's a woman's college. It was a 2-year college, but now they have worked on it, and it is a 4-year woman's college. And my daughter was lucky enough to go there. And when she got out of high school, she went to college at Cotty, and I was very proud of her. Also, Terry's interesting because when she was 15, she went to Chile as an exchange student. So, and at this time it is helpful because she speaks fluent Spanish, and that is very good to be able to do in this country now because there's so many Spanish-speaking people.
That's right.
So it was a plus for her. Also, I'm very proud that I'm a Latimer member of the Latimer Art Club in Reno, and for many years I was the only member from Carson City that was a member of the Latimer Art Club.
Can you give us a little history of the Latimer Art Club?
Oh, Latimer came in 1920 and gave classes to the artists in Reno, and anybody around, whoever was a Latimer. Anyhow, they started the club, and you had to really, it was very, very, very nice to be invited to join Latimer because it's a very, very fine bunch of painters. They're really excellent artists that belong to Latimer. And I was very flattered that they invited me to join Latimer.
Is this the oldest art group in
Yes, since 1920. So, and they have some fine artists, wonderful artists, and they're still going strong. Mm-hmm.
Are you also a member of the Artist Co-op in Reno? Or
No, I don't belong to that. I'm an honorary member now since I'm so ancient. I'm an honorary member of the Latimer Art Club, and of course I still belong to the one in Carson, and I sit at the gallery on Fridays, and I go to all their meetings and keep them on their toes.
And you are also a member, I believe, of one of the older garden clubs in Carson City.
Mark Twain Garden Club, and that's the first garden club from 1850. That's quite a while ago, and it's a wonderful. And they had a meeting last Friday. We're still meeting, and that was at the Bliss Mansion, and we had a beekeeper come and give us a program on bees. It was wonderful.
And I know they do things around Carson. What were some of the projects that they have done in the community?
anyone that passes away in our club gets a rose bush or a tree, depending. So there are trees all over and rose bushes in Carson City from our members that have passed. So because we've been going a long time.
And where are these planted?
All over the college and and then by the Capitol building.
In parks and public places.
Yes, all over, wherever we find a place. And we do gardening down by where they have the farmers market. We have a place there where we plant things. So we keep busy. We always have something going.
Pat, in summation, you have been a community member of Carson City for over 50 years. What are you most proud of in your life, and what are you most proud of in your community?
Well, I'm proud of starting the Brewery Art Center because it is an asset for our community. They have things going all the time in the arts. We wanted it the main art center in Carson City, but as you know, it's on King Street. So it's very hard for people to find the Brewery Art Center because there isn't a street that goes through. And anyhow, but it is a beautiful place, and we do get a lot of people that come to visit, and it's beautifully done. And I'm very proud of that.
And in your life, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, that I do know how to, that it took me a while to learn how to paint, but I enjoyed every minute, and I painted for many, many years. And I've done very well with my artwork, and I'm proud that my kids all turned out beautifully. My son Michael has had his own business, and he lives in Reno. And Terry is amazing, my daughter. She has, she's just amazing, that's all. She's been president, as I say, of a state PEO chapter, and I think that's very commendable. And now we played a lot of Monopoly. This is silly, but we did, and you know how you have to buy hotels? Well, she has 3, so I think that's pretty good. We played lots of Monopoly. And she's a wonderful lady, and everybody loves Terry. My oldest son is very, very successful in his construction company. It was called Alpine Energy, and he worked putting windows and doors in by the airport, through the airport thing. And my son Tom, I call him Teepee Tarpey, and Thomas Patrick Tarpey, he's a good Irish lad with red hair, and he's he was in the Navy for many years, and he's worked at the university as a printer till he retired. So I'm proud of my kids.